Have you ever asked yourself why some people rise above everything life throws at them while others crumble under the weight of far less? The answer isn't strength of the body. It isn't luck. It isn't even talent. It is the power of a mindset that refuses to be defeated. Deep down, you already know this. You've seen people who had nothing, who faced setbacks that would break most, and yet they rose, they fought, they conquered, and the truth is the same potential lives inside you. Right now, it might be buried under doubt, under fear, under old beliefs that whisper you're not enough, but those whispers are lies. They are echoes of the past, not the truth of who you are meant to become. The greatest battle you will ever face is not out there in the world. It's within your own mind. Every obstacle, every challenge, every rejection, every failure, none of it has the power to break you unless you give it permission. And the permission is given in thought. The words you repeat to yourself every day shape the world you see and the world you step into. When you tell yourself you cannot, you chain yourself to defeat before the fight even begins. When you tell yourself you will, you ignite a fire that nothing can extinguish. That is why the mind must be trained, disciplined, and reshaped, because a weak mindset will sabotage your future, but a strong mindset can carry you through storms no one else survives. You may think you are powerless against the weight of your circumstances, but you are not. Your brain has the extraordinary ability to rewire itself, to adapt, to grow, to become stronger every time it is challenged. Science calls it neuroplasticity. But for you, it means this: no matter where you start, no matter how broken, no matter how many scars you carry, you can build a mind so strong it bends reality itself. You can learn to respond with courage when fear screams at you. You can learn to keep moving forward when failure tries to drag you down. You can learn to silence doubt, to rise above pain, to stand unshaken in the face of chaos. And here's the truth that should set your soul on fire. Once you build a mindset that cannot be defeated, no one can take it from you. Not circumstance, not rejection, not fear, not failure. You will walk into every challenge with a quiet confidence, knowing that even if you fall, you will rise stronger. Even if you break, you will rebuild. Even if you lose, you will learn, and in learning, you will win again. That is the reward waiting for you. Freedom from being tossed around by life's storms. Freedom from being controlled by fear. Freedom from the prison of doubt. So stay with me until the end, because what you are about to hear is not theory, it is not empty words, it is a blueprint. A blueprint for creating a mindset so unshakable, so powerful, that it can defeat anything. And once you begin to build it, you will never look at yourself or your life the same way again. The first step to building that kind of unshakable mindset begins with a simple yet often overlooked truth. You become what you focus on. Every thought you feed grows stronger. Every belief you repeat carves deeper into your mind like a river-shaping stone. If you constantly feed yourself fear, doubt, and limitation, your mind will shrink to fit those boundaries. But if you choose to feed it strength, courage, and resilience, it will expand beyond every wall you thought was unbreakable. The human brain cannot tell the difference between what is vividly imagined and what is real. That is why elite athletes rehearse victory in their minds before they step onto the field. They know that when the body follows the mind, performance is transformed. You can use the same principle. What you repeatedly allow your mind to dwell on will eventually show up in your life. So pause for a moment and ask yourself, what are you feeding your mind each day? Are you replaying your mistakes, your failures, your insecurities? Or are you rehearsing strength, courage, and determination? The answer to that question will tell you why you feel the way you do and why you face the struggles you face. A defeated mindset is not created in a single moment. It is created in thousands of small, repeated choices to focus on the wrong things. But here's the hope. Just as it is built, it can also be rebuilt. You can decide today that your thoughts will no longer be your enemy. You can decide that every day you will train your mind as if your life depends on it, because it does. Training the mind is like training a muscle. You cannot lift a heavy weight once and expect strength to last forever. You build it through consistent daily repetition, Every time you choose courage over fear, you strengthen mental resilience. Every time you refuse to give in to excuses, you grow discipline. Every time you rise after falling, you forge grit. These are not abstract qualities. They are skills, and skills can be learned, practiced, and mastered. The difference between the person who crumbles and the person who conquers is not fate. It is the decision to train the mind with relentless persistence. This is why your environment matters. The voices you listen to, the people you surround yourself with, the words you speak, the media you consume, all of it is food for the mind. If you surround yourself with negativity, if you drown in excuses and complaints, you are feeding poison to the very part of you that determines your future. But if you surround yourself with strength, with positivity, with reminders of possibility, you are creating fertile ground for resilience to grow. Guard your mind as fiercely as you would guard your life, because they are one and the same. And here is the fire that will drive you forward. When you choose to master your mindset, you are no longer a victim of chance. You are no longer waiting for life to get easier or for circumstances to finally align. You stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for luck. You step into the truth that your strength has never been outside of you. It has always been within. And once you recognize that, nothing can stop you. Not the past, not the present, not the weight of the world. You will rise because your mind has already decided you will. There will always be moments when life tests the strength of your mind. The storm will come, and it will come without warning. Fear will whisper in the quiet hours. Doubt will rise when you least expect it. Failure will try to convince you that you are not capable. These moments are not signs that you are weak. They are proof that you are human. But what separates the ones who rise from the ones who stay broken is the choice made in those very moments. Do you surrender to the weight of the storm, or do you stand in the middle of it and decide that nothing will take away your resolve? That decision, repeated again and again, is what transforms ordinary people into unshakable forces. Understand this clearly. Pressure is not your enemy. Resistance is not there to destroy you. They are the very forces that strengthen you. A diamond is formed under pressure. Steel is forged in fire, and your mind is no different. Every challenge you face is not a curse, but an opportunity to harden your resilience, to sharpen your discipline, to expand the edges of what you thought possible. When the weight of life presses down, it is not there to crush you. It is there to carve you into the person you were meant to become. If you run from pressure, you run from growth. If you embrace it, you unlock a level of strength you never knew you had. But pressure alone is not enough. You must train yourself to see it differently. Most people see resistance and shrink back. They tell themselves they cannot handle it, and so they collapse. But those who cultivate a mindset that can defeat anything learn to flip the meaning. When they feel fear, they take it as a signal to move forward. When they face resistance, they see it as proof they are on the right path. When they fail, they treat it as the raw material of growth. This shift is not natural. It must be practiced again and again until your mind automatically interprets challenge as power instead of pain. That is the essence of mental toughness. Not the absence of fear, not the absence of pain, but the decision to interpret both as fuel instead of barriers. When you choose to see struggle as the very thing that strengthens you, your relationship with life changes. You no longer dread obstacles because you know they are building you. You no longer avoid failure because you know it is shaping you. And you no longer fear fear itself because you know it is guiding you toward growth. This is the kind of mindset that cannot be defeated because it has removed the power of circumstance to control it. And here lies the greatest freedom. Once you reframe every struggle as fuel, nothing has power over you anymore. The opinions of others lose their grip. The fear of rejection dissolves. The pain of failure transforms into strength. You become untouchable, not because life gets easier, but because your mind has become stronger than anything life can throw at it. This is where transformation begins. The point where you no longer wait for an easy path, but decide to walk with power on the hardest one. This is where your true strength is born. The reason most people never reach this state of strength is because they underestimate the power of discipline. They wait for motivation to strike, believing they must feel inspired before they can act. But motivation is unreliable. It rises and falls like the tide, and if you depend on it, your progress will be as inconsistent as the waves. Discipline, however, is a different force. Discipline is the choice to act regardless of how you feel. Discipline is the voice that says, I will do what must be done. Even when your body is tired, even when your mind is restless, even when every part of you wants to quit. This is the foundation of an undefeatable mindset, the ability to act with consistency no matter the emotional weather. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you are teaching your mind a vital lesson that your feelings do not control you. Imagine the freedom in that truth. Imagine living a life where fear no longer stops you, where laziness no longer traps you, where excuses no longer dictate your future. That is what discipline gives you, control over yourself. And when you control yourself, you can control the direction of your life. The world may throw chaos your way, but the disciplined mind does not bend. It moves forward with steady steps, refusing to let momentary emotion dictate long-term destiny. This is why small daily actions matter more than grand bursts of effort. Your future is not shaped by what you do once in a while, but by what you repeat every single day. Each choice is like a drop of water wearing away stone. Alone, it may seem insignificant, but over time, it reshapes everything. The person who skips discipline today tells themselves it doesn't matter, but deep inside, a pattern is being written. The person who chooses discipline today may not see the results immediately, but their mind is being forged stronger, their willpower growing sharper, their future being carved one decision at a time. Think of discipline as proof to yourself. Every disciplined act is a message to your own mind. I am in control. I keep my word. I do not break under pressure. This builds confidence not through empty affirmations, but through undeniable evidence. You no longer have to tell yourself you are strong. You prove it in action. And that evidence becomes a foundation so solid that when challenges come, you do not doubt your ability to endure. Because you've already trained yourself through countless daily choices. And here is the deeper reward. Discipline is freedom. At first, it feels like sacrifice, like restriction, like giving up ease for effort. But in time, it becomes the path to liberation. The disciplined person is free from the chains of procrastination, free from the weight of regret, free from the frustration of wasted potential. They move through life with clarity, with focus, with power, because their mind no longer negotiates with weakness. Discipline creates momentum, and momentum creates transformation. When you embrace discipline as the highest form of self-respect, you realize you are no longer fighting against life. You are fighting for the future you deserve. And when your mind understands that, it stops looking for the easy path and starts creating the powerful one. This is how a mindset capable of defeating anything is built, choice by choice, discipline by discipline, until strength becomes your natural state. Discipline alone, however, cannot thrive without clarity of purpose. A strong mind needs a direction, a reason to endure the discomfort, a vision that pulls it forward when every part of the body screams to stop. Without purpose, discipline feels like punishment. With purpose, discipline becomes devotion. This is why the strongest people you see are often the ones with the clearest why. They are not simply grinding through life. They are moving toward something that matters to them on the deepest level. Their sacrifices are not random. They are investments in a vision that keeps their spirit alive. You must decide what that vision is for you. Ask yourself, what is so important that it deserves my full strength, my full focus, my full commitment? What goal, what dream, what future is so meaningful that I will refuse to quit, no matter how heavy the burden becomes? When you answer that question honestly, you ignite a fire within that discipline alone cannot create. You begin to see obstacles not as walls, but as steps on the path. You begin to feel setbacks not as signs to give up, but as reminders of how much this dream is worth. Purpose transforms pain into fuel, because you are no longer enduring for nothing. You are enduring for something that makes your heart come alive. Your mind is wired to survive, but survival alone is not enough. The deepest part of you is not satisfied with just existing. It craves meaning, growth, contribution, impact. Without purpose, the mind drifts, it weakens, it loses its edge. But with purpose, it sharpens. It gains energy even in exhaustion. It sees beyond the struggle and into the reward. This is not fantasy. This is how the human spirit is designed. Purpose lights a path through darkness, and once you have it, you will never look at hardship the same way again. The truth is, pain without purpose feels unbearable, but pain with purpose feels unstoppable. Think of the moments in your life when you endured something difficult because it mattered. Perhaps it was protecting someone you love. Perhaps it was finishing something you once thought impossible. Perhaps it was pushing yourself beyond limits you didn't know you could break. In those moments, it was not comfort that carried you. It was meaning. And that same power is available to you now if you choose to claim it. When your mind is anchored to a powerful why, you become resilient in ways that shock even yourself. You stop questioning whether you can because the vision demands that you must. You stop negotiating with excuses because the goal is too important to abandon. You stop fearing the weight of the challenge because the challenge becomes proof that you are walking the right path. This is how clarity transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. And here's the reward that makes the fight worth it: living a life where every step has meaning. A life where every sacrifice builds something greater. A life where your mindset is no longer fragile because it is rooted in purpose so strong that nothing can shake it. This is the kind of mindset that does not just survive, it conquers. And when you build it, you discover a power within yourself that you may have doubted, but has been waiting all along to be unleashed. When you understand your purpose, the next challenge becomes belief. Because even with vision, even with clarity, even with discipline, if you do not believe you are capable, your mind will sabotage you before you begin. Belief is the foundation of every breakthrough, the invisible force that determines whether you take the first step or remain paralyzed by hesitation. Most people underestimate the power of belief. They think it is just a thought, a feeling, a hope. But belief is far more than that. It is the filter through which you experience the world. If you believe you are weak, every challenge will feel impossible. If you believe you are strong, every challenge becomes an opportunity to prove it. The human brain is always looking for evidence to support what it already believes. This is why self-doubt is so destructive. It tricks your mind into searching for proof that you cannot succeed. And of course, it finds it. A past mistake, a failure, a rejection, a harsh word spoken long ago. But belief can also work in your favor. When you begin to tell yourself that you are capable, your mind starts searching for evidence of strength. It remembers the times you overcame. It highlights the moments you endured. It focuses on the victories, no matter how small. And with each reminder, your confidence grows. This is not blind optimism. This is rewiring the brain to recognize truth instead of fear. Belief is a choice before it becomes a reality. You do not wait until you feel confident to act. You act, and through action, confidence is built. Every time you step into the unknown, every time you face fear and refuse to back down, you are casting a vote for the belief that you can. And the more votes you cast, the stronger that belief becomes until it is no longer fragile, no longer shaken by small setbacks, but anchored deep inside you. That is how belief is built, not in one grand moment, but in the consistent decision to trust yourself, even when doubt screams louder. There will always be voices, both within and outside, that try to convince you otherwise. They will say you are not ready, not capable, not worthy. But those voices are not truth. They are echoes of fear, and fear only has power if you let it. Belief is the shield that protects you from those lies. It is the reminder that you do not need to be perfect to begin. You do not need to have everything figured out. You only need the courage to take the first step, and then the next, and then the next. The reward of building this kind of belief is freedom from hesitation. Imagine living a life where self-doubt no longer paralyzes you, where you no longer waste years waiting for permission to start, where you no longer shrink from opportunities because you fear failure. Instead, you move with quiet certainty. You speak with conviction. You act with courage. You begin to carry yourself not as someone hoping they might succeed, but as someone who knows they cannot be stopped. That is the transformation that belief brings. And when it is combined with discipline and purpose, your mindset becomes unbreakable, and nothing, no obstacle, no setback, no fear can defeat it. Belief, however, must be protected. A powerful mindset is not something you build once and then forget about. It must be reinforced daily, guarded against the constant assaults of negativity, distraction, and doubt that the world throws at you. Think of your mind as a fortress. If you leave the gates wide open, anything can enter: the doubts of others, the fear carried in headlines, the criticism from those who have given up on themselves. But when you guard your fortress, when you deliberately choose what thoughts, voices, and influences you allow inside, you preserve your strength. The truth is, most people are not defeated by their own limitations, but by the borrowed limitations of those around them. They absorb the pessimism, the fear, the mediocrity of others, and without realizing it, they weaken their own belief. You must decide that your mind is sacred ground. This means setting boundaries with the voices that drain your energy. This means refusing to feed on constant negativity and instead surrounding yourself with messages that remind you of possibility, of courage, of resilience. Every word you consume is shaping your mindset. Every conversation, every piece of content, every environment you place yourself in is either sharpening your strength or dulling it. When you begin to recognize this, you take back control. You realize that belief is not fragile, but it is shaped by what you allow to shape it. Protect it fiercely, because your entire future depends on it. This is not about ignoring reality or pretending pain does not exist. It is about choosing perspective. Two people can face the same storm. One sees it as the end, the other sees it as the beginning. The difference is not in the storm, it is in the mindset. You cannot always control what happens to you, but you can control what it means to you, and that choice determines whether you stay broken or whether you rise. This is the essence of mental strength, the ability to define reality instead of letting reality define you. There will be days when protecting your mindset feels exhausting, days when negativity feels louder than possibility, days when failure weighs heavy on your chest. Those are the moments when most people surrender. But those moments are also the greatest opportunities to rise, because resilience is forged when it is hardest to hold on. Every time you choose to protect your belief, even when it feels impossible, you strengthen your fortress. You make it harder for doubt to break in the next time. You make it easier to hold your ground in the next storm. And here is the reward. When your belief is protected, you become unstoppable from within. The world may doubt you, but you do not doubt yourself. The world may throw distractions, but you stay focused. The world may criticize, but you remain steady because you know who you are and what you are building. That is the power of a guarded mind. It does not bend to outside noise. It leads, it drives, it transforms. And when you live with that kind of strength, you realize that nothing outside of you has the power to defeat you. Not failure, not rejection, not even fear itself. When you protect your belief, the next evolution of your mindset is persistence. Because even with purpose, discipline, and belief, the path to anything worthwhile is never straight. It twists, it turns, it breaks, it delays. You will face walls that seem immovable, setbacks that feel unfair, and seasons of silence where nothing seems to be working. These moments are where most people stop. They confuse delay with defeat. They confuse difficulty with impossibility. But persistence is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. It is the refusal to stop moving forward, even when progress is invisible, even when momentum feels lost, even when every part of you wonders if it's worth it. Persistence is not glamorous. It is not loud. It does not always look like triumph. Sometimes it looks like simply showing up when you'd rather quit. Sometimes it looks like taking one small step forward when the mountain ahead feels endless. But do not underestimate the power of those small steps. Persistence compounds. What feels like a small, almost meaningless effort today becomes the very momentum that changes everything tomorrow. The difference between those who reach their vision and those who abandon it is not talent, not luck, not opportunity. It is the decision to persist when others stop. Your brain is designed to seek comfort, to avoid struggle, to retreat when pain appears. That is survival. But persistence is not about survival. It is about growth. Growth requires you to override that instinct and keep moving even when it hurts. Every time you persist in the face of discomfort, you teach your mind that you are more powerful than pain. Every time you persist in the face of failure, you remind yourself that setbacks are not the end, but lessons that strengthen your strategy. Persistence is proof to yourself that you will not be broken by resistance. There will be moments when nothing seems to change, when the results you long for refuse to appear. These are the most dangerous moments because the temptation to quit is strongest when progress is invisible. But this is also the exact point where persistence pays off. The roots of a tree grow long before the fruit appears. The foundation of a building is laid long before the structure rises. And your progress works the same way. The work you do in silence, the effort you make when no one is watching, the sacrifices you endure when no recognition comes, these are the seeds of transformation. And persistence is what ensures those seeds are watered until they break through the surface. The reward of persistence is certainty, not certainty that life will be easy, but certainty that nothing will stop you from moving forward. When you embody persistence, you no longer fear failure, because failure is simply another step. You no longer fear time because you know you will outlast every obstacle. You no longer fear the weight of the challenge because you have chosen to carry it as long as it takes. This kind of persistence creates a mindset that cannot be broken because it does not recognize the option of quitting. And when your mind refuses to quit, nothing, no matter how impossible it looks, can stand in your way forever. Persistence creates progress, but progress can only be sustained through adaptability. A rigid mindset breaks when reality shifts, but a flexible one bends and grows stronger. Life will not always unfold the way you expect. Plans will fail, doors will close, and paths you thought were certain will suddenly disappear. If your strength is built only on things going as planned, your mindset will collapse at the first disruption. But when you embrace adaptability, you develop the power to adjust without losing momentum, to pivot without losing faith, to rise again without hesitation. Adaptability does not mean giving up on your vision. It means being willing to find a different road when the one ahead is blocked. It means holding on to your purpose, but releasing your need for perfection in the process. Many people remain trapped in frustration because they cling to how they thought their journey should look, and when it doesn't, they label themselves as failures. But the truth is, the path to victory is rarely straight. It twists, it detours, it tests your ability to stay flexible. Those who refuse to adapt stay stuck. Those who embrace adaptability keep moving forward until they arrive. Your brain is wired for patterns. It wants routine, familiarity, and predictability because they feel safe. But growth lives in disruption. Adaptability trains your mind to see change not as a threat, but as an invitation. Every shift, every unexpected turn, every closed door becomes an opportunity to find a new way, a better way, a stronger way. Instead of resisting change, you learn to use it. Instead of fighting reality, you align with it and extract strength from it. This is how adaptability transforms obstacles into stepping stones. Think of the strongest forces in nature. Water adapts to every shape it encounters. It flows around, under, and over obstacles until it carves entire landscapes. Fire adapts to its environment, consuming whatever fuel it finds, growing stronger with resistance. And like these forces, your mindset must adapt to endure. If you can bend, you cannot be broken. If you can shift, you cannot be stopped. This is the essence of resilience. The ability to move with life's changes without losing your direction. Adaptability also sharpens creativity. When one path is blocked, your mind is forced to search for new solutions. This search awakens resourcefulness you didn't know you had. Challenges that once seemed impossible begin to open new doors. What once felt like a setback becomes the spark of innovation. And as you strengthen this ability, you realize that you are never truly trapped, because there is always another way forward for the mind that refuses to stop looking. The reward of adaptability is freedom from fear of change. When you embrace it, you no longer dread uncertainty. You no longer feel paralyzed when plans collapse. You no longer see endings as final. Instead, you see them as transitions, as redirections, as opportunities to grow stronger. This is the mindset that survives every storm, not because the storm is easy, but because you have learned to flow with it, to rise above it, and to let it sharpen you. And when you live with this kind of adaptability, defeat becomes impossible. Because no matter how life shifts, you will always find a way to move forward. Adaptability gives you the ability to keep moving, but it is courage that determines how far you will go. Because no matter how much you prepare, no matter how much you train your mind, there will always come a moment when the next step feels terrifying. Fear is the gatekeeper of growth. It stands at the edge of every breakthrough, daring you to retreat, tempting you to play small, convincing you to stay where it feels safe. Most people turn back at this point, mistaking fear as a warning to stop. But those who develop a mindset that can defeat anything understand that fear is not a wall, it is a signal. It means you are standing at the threshold of transformation. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is choosing to move forward in spite of it, the trembling voice that speaks anyway, the shaking hands that act anyway, the racing heart that steps forward anyway. This is the kind of courage that reshapes your entire life, because every time you walk through fear, you expand the boundaries of who you are. What once seemed impossible becomes normal. What once felt terrifying becomes a memory. Fear shrinks when confronted, but it grows when avoided. This is why courage must become your constant companion, because only through courage do you train your mind to rise instead of retreat. Fear is designed to keep you alive, but it does not always serve your future. It is a signal wired for survival, not for growth. The challenge is learning to separate the fear that protects you from danger from the fear that protects you from expansion. Most of the fear you feel is not a sign of danger, it is a sign of discomfort, of stepping into the unknown. And the unknown is where your true strength waits. If you refuse to enter it, you remain trapped in the cage of the familiar. If you face it, you discover abilities you never imagined. Every act of courage rewires your brain. Neuroscience shows that when you expose yourself to fear and act anyway, your brain creates new pathways, teaching itself that the fear was not fatal, that the unknown was survivable, that you are capable of more than you thought. This process builds resilience at the deepest level. It transforms courage from a rare burst into a natural state. Over time, what once terrified you becomes your new normal, and your threshold for fear continues to rise. This is how extraordinary people are created, not by being fearless, but by repeatedly practicing courage until fear loses its grip. The reward of courage is freedom. Freedom from the prison of what if, freedom from the weight of regrets that come from never trying, freedom from the suffocating limits of a life lived too small. When you choose courage, you choose expansion, you choose growth, you choose to live fully even when it scares you. And in that choice, you become unstoppable because there is nothing left to hold you back. Fear may still whisper, but your courage speaks louder. And when your courage speaks louder, your mindset becomes unbreakable, and you realize there is no challenge, no obstacle, no fear that can truly defeat you. Courage opens the door, but focus is what carries you through. A scattered mind cannot build an unshakable life. Distraction is one of the greatest enemies of strength because it pulls your energy in 100 directions and leaves you too weak to break through in the one direction that truly matters. Every day, the world competes for your attention. Notifications, noise, opinions, endless demands. If you do not take control of your focus, your power will be drained before you ever apply it to your purpose. But when you harness focus, you channel your energy like a laser, cutting through obstacles that once felt immovable. Focus is the discipline of the mind to lock onto what matters and refuse to be seduced by what doesn't. It is the ability to say no, not because opportunities are unworthy, but because you are committed to something greater. Most people fail not because they lack ability, but because they lack focus. They spread themselves thin, chasing everything, achieving nothing. The undefeatable mindset chooses a target, commits to it fully, and gives it everything until progress is undeniable. This requires training because the brain is wired to seek novelty. It craves stimulation. It wants the quick hit of excitement. It is addicted to the instant rush of distraction. But growth demands depth, not speed. It demands staying with the uncomfortable task long after the excitement has faded. It demands staying faithful to your purpose when every temptation screams for your attention. The more you train your focus, the more control you gain over your own mind. And when you control your mind, you control your destiny. Focus also means controlling the conversation within yourself. Doubt will try to hijack your attention. Fear will try to dominate your thoughts. The past will try to replay itself again and again, but you decide where your mind rests. You can choose to replay failure, or you can choose to visualize victory. You can choose to dwell on limitations, or you can choose to dwell on possibility. Where your focus goes, your energy flows. And where your energy flows, your future grows. There will be moments when staying focused feels impossible, when distractions seem louder than your own vision. These are the very moments when focus matters most. Every time you pull your mind back to your purpose, every time you redirect your attention toward growth, you are strengthening your ability to stay aligned with your goals. This practice compounds over time until focus becomes not just something you do, but something you are. The reward of focus is acceleration. What once took years of scattered effort becomes achievable in months of concentrated energy. What once felt impossible becomes inevitable when you give it your undivided attention. And the deeper reward is peace. A focused mind is a quiet mind. It no longer chases everything. It no longer drowns in noise. It no longer wastes energy on distractions. It moves with clarity, with confidence, with purpose. This is the power of a focused mindset. It makes you unstoppable, not because you are faster, but because you are unwavering. And when you are unwavering, no obstacle can hold you for long, because your attention will carve a path straight through it. Focus gives you clarity, but energy is what allows you to execute with strength. A powerful mindset cannot thrive in a weak body or a drained spirit. Too often, people sabotage themselves not because they lack the will, but because they lack the energy to act on that will. Energy is the fuel of persistence, discipline, courage, and focus. Without it, even the strongest vision collapses under the weight of exhaustion. But when you cultivate energy, your mindset gains a force that propels you through barriers that would otherwise stop you. Your energy is not just physical, it is mental, emotional, and spiritual. Every thought you think, every emotion you dwell on, every environment you place yourself in either charges you or drains you. Negativity is not just a mindset issue, it is an energy thief. Doubt, comparison, self-criticism, toxic environments, they all consume the power you need to move forward. Protecting your energy means deliberately choosing habits, thoughts, and practices that fuel you instead of deplete you. When you feed your mind with positivity, when you train your body with discipline, when you surround yourself with strength instead of weakness, you create energy that multiplies rather than fades. The mind and body are deeply connected. When you move your body, you energize your mind. When you fuel your body well, you sharpen your focus. When you rest with intention, you renew your resilience. Too many people treat their bodies as afterthoughts while expecting their minds to perform like champions. But a drained body cannot sustain a strong mind. If you want a mindset that can defeat anything, you must respect the system that carries it. Small habits, exercise, nutrition, rest are not just health practices, they are mindset practices. They are the foundation of sustained energy. And sustained energy is the foundation of unstoppable progress. Emotional energy is just as critical. Every moment spent in resentment, bitterness, or comparison is a moment your power is being drained. Your emotions are signals, but they must not be prisons. Learn to release what does not serve you. Learn to focus on gratitude instead of lack, on progress instead of perfection, on possibility instead of limitation. Gratitude, in particular, is a powerful energy generator. It shifts your focus from what is missing to what is available, from what you cannot control to what you can. This shift fills your spirit with strength, making you more resilient in the face of challenge. Energy is also multiplied by alignment. When your actions match your values, when your daily habits align with your deeper purpose, you stop wasting energy on internal conflict. Integrity creates power because it eliminates the drain of living a divided life. Every time you live in alignment with who you know you are meant to be, you gain energy. Every time you betray yourself with excuses, avoidance, or dishonesty, you lose it. The strongest minds are not just disciplined and courageous. They are aligned. And alignment produces a kind of energy that feels limitless. The reward of cultivating energy is vitality. You stop dragging yourself through life and start moving with power. You wake up with drive, you carry yourself with presence, and you pursue your purpose with strength that others cannot understand. This is what makes your mindset undefeatable. Not just thought alone, but the force of energy that fuels every action, every choice, every step. When you learn to master your energy, you realize you are not running out of strength. You are generating it. And once you generate it, nothing can stop the momentum you create. Energy gives you the strength to move forward, but belief gives you the reason to keep going when the path feels endless. A person with energy but no belief burns out quickly, because without conviction, effort feels empty. Belief is the inner engine that sustains momentum long after the initial excitement is gone. It is the quiet voice that says, "I will rise again," when everything around you whispers, "It's over." Belief is not just optimism. It is a decision to trust in your own ability to grow, adapt, and overcome no matter what stands in front of you. Your beliefs shape the way you interpret the world. If you believe you are powerless, every obstacle looks like a wall. If you believe you are capable, every obstacle looks like a challenge to be mastered. The same reality can either crush you or elevate you, depending on the story you tell yourself about who you are. That is the power of belief. It transforms perception, and perception shapes experience. When you decide to believe in your strength, you unlock a mindset that sees possibility even where others only see defeat. The science of psychology proves that belief affects performance. People who believe they can succeed push longer, endure more, and recover faster. This is called self-efficacy, the confidence in your ability to influence outcomes. It does not mean you control everything, but it means you trust yourself to adapt, to learn, and to fight until you create progress. When belief is strong, setbacks no longer feel like endings. They feel like temporary detours. Failure is no longer a reflection of your worth. It becomes a lesson that strengthens your ability to win. Belief must be built deliberately because the world is quick to attack it. Every negative voice, every past mistake, every moment of doubt tries to convince you that belief is foolish. But belief is not naive. It is the most practical tool for transformation. Without belief, you will never commit fully, because commitment requires faith that your effort will matter. With belief, you give everything, and it is that kind of complete effort that changes your life. Belief grows through repetition. Every time you push through resistance, every time you prove to yourself that you can endure more than you thought, belief takes root. Every promise you keep to yourself plants another seed of confidence. Every challenge you face becomes evidence that you are stronger than you imagined. Over time, this evidence compounds until belief is no longer just an idea. It is a certainty. You no longer have to convince yourself you can overcome. You know it through experience. Protect your belief fiercely because it is the foundation of resilience. Guard it from those who would minimize your dreams. Guard it from the voice inside that tells you it is safer to give up. Feed it with affirmations, with victories, with reminders of how far you have already come. And remember, belief is not built on perfection. It is built on persistence. You don't need to be flawless to believe in yourself. You only need to be willing to keep rising, to keep trying, to keep moving forward when everything else says stop. When energy and belief combine, they create momentum. Momentum is the force that turns small steps into unstoppable progress. And once you have belief, nothing outside of you can dictate your destiny because you will always find a way to rise above. This is the strength of a mindset that cannot be defeated. It refuses to stop believing even when the world doubts, and that refusal becomes the reason it always finds a way to win. Belief gives you the foundation, but discipline turns that foundation into something unshakable. Discipline is the bridge between intention and transformation. It is what ensures that the energy you feel and the belief you carry are translated into consistent, meaningful action. Without discipline, motivation fades. Without discipline, belief remains an idea. Discipline is the daily commitment to live in alignment with the person you say you want to become. It is the quiet power of doing what must be done, not just when it feels easy, but especially when it feels impossible. Discipline is not about perfection. It is about persistence. The most powerful individuals are not those who never stumble, but those who refuse to let a stumble turn into surrender. They show up even when they are tired, even when fear is screaming, even when doubt feels overwhelming. Every small choice to persist builds the muscle of self-control. Every decision to stay on the path, no matter how inconvenient, strengthens your identity as someone who cannot be broken. This is why discipline is not punishment. It is freedom. It frees you from the chains of hesitation, from the weight of inconsistency, from the regret of never following through. The human brain is wired to seek comfort, but growth does not live in comfort. Growth lives in the discomfort of effort, in the resistance of challenge, in the discipline of repetition. By practicing discipline, you rewire your brain. You train it to stop chasing short-term relief and start chasing long-term strength. The more you practice, the more automatic it becomes. What once felt like a struggle becomes your normal state of being. And when discipline becomes part of who you are, you no longer have to fight yourself. You simply act, and that action carries you forward. Discipline also builds trust with yourself. Trust is the most powerful relationship you will ever develop because without it, nothing else holds. When you promise yourself something and keep that promise, you prove to your mind that you are reliable. You learn to depend on your own word. That trust becomes unshakable confidence. But when you break promises to yourself, you weaken your own foundation. Discipline protects you from that collapse. It ensures that your word carries weight, not just to others, but to yourself. And once you fully trust yourself, there is no obstacle that can intimidate you for long. Understand that discipline is not fueled by feelings, it is fueled by decisions. Feelings are temporary, they rise and fall, they shift with circumstances. Decisions are permanent. When you decide that you will rise, you no longer need to negotiate with your feelings. You act because you have already chosen who you are. That choice becomes your anchor when storms come. That choice gives you stability when everything else is uncertain. That choice is the reason you move forward even when comfort tempts you to stop. Every time you practice discipline, you strengthen the mindset that defeats anything. You show yourself that you are not controlled by moods, excuses, or external noise. You are controlled by a deeper vision of who you are becoming. That vision demands consistency, and discipline delivers it. And when discipline fuses with energy and belief, you become a force that nothing can derail, because you no longer depend on chance, you depend on choice. And choice, backed by discipline, is the most unstoppable power you will ever possess. Discipline shapes your actions, but focus sharpens them. Focus is the weapon that directs all your energy, belief, and persistence toward a single point until it pierces through resistance. Without focus, your strength scatters. Without focus, your discipline drifts into busyness rather than progress. Focus is the power to silence distractions and channel every part of yourself into what truly matters. It is not just about paying attention, it is about deciding what deserves your attention and refusing to give your life to anything less. Your mind will always be tempted by noise. The world is filled with endless voices, pulling at your time, demanding your energy, trying to convince you that everything is urgent. But urgency is not the same as importance. The strongest mindset is not the one that does more, but the one that does what matters most. Focus requires you to choose. It demands clarity about your direction and ruthless honesty about what serves that direction. Every yes must be protected by 1,000 no's. When you learn to protect your attention, you protect your destiny. Psychologists have proven that the brain cannot give its full energy to multiple priorities at once. Multitasking is an illusion. It dilutes power. The human mind thrives when it locks onto a single target with intensity. That is why focus produces momentum, and momentum creates breakthroughs. The more you concentrate on one aim, the faster you grow into the person who can reach it. And as you achieve, your confidence grows, your belief strengthens, and your energy multiplies. Focus builds progress, and progress fuels the fire that keeps you unstoppable. Focus is also an act of courage. It takes courage to ignore what everyone else is chasing. It takes courage to say no to distractions that look attractive but lead nowhere. Most people scatter their strength and wonder why they feel stuck. Few are bold enough to direct everything into one meaningful pursuit. When you are bold enough to focus, you separate yourself from the average. You prove that you are not here to be distracted, you are here to dominate. That clarity creates freedom because you no longer waste time doubting where to go. You know your path and you walk it with power. Focus does not mean you never face setbacks. It means that setbacks no longer confuse you because your attention is locked on the outcome, not the obstacle. When something goes wrong, your focus guides you back on track. When the path feels long, your focus keeps you moving forward. Focus is the inner compass that never lets you forget why you started, even when fatigue whispers that it would be easier to stop. That compass ensures you finish what you begin because your vision stays alive no matter what tries to blur it. Every moment of focus strengthens your ability to defeat anything because no challenge can overwhelm a mind that knows where it is going. The storm can rage, but focus keeps you steady. The distractions can scream, but focus keeps you quiet inside. The world can pressure you to drift, but focus holds you to your higher standard. Energy gives you the fuel, belief gives you the foundation, discipline gives you the rhythm, but focus gives you the aim. And when your aim is true, nothing can stand between you and the life you are determined to create.